Welcome back to the refuge where whispers grow into truths and the noise falls away just long enough for us to hear what hearts are really saying. You are watching Whispers of Turkish Stars. In a universe obsessed with perfect angles and filtered captions, we are trained to accept the polished version, the rehearsed smiles, the neat statements, the lines approved by managers who turn pain into palatable press. We scroll and we nod and we pretend that celebrities live on a different planet, one without the kind of jagged grief that keeps ordinary people awake at night. But sometimes, the mask slips, the script is tossed, and something unscripted erupts, something so raw that it rattles even the most cynical among us. This morning, the tremor wasn't another launch or scandal. It was the cracking sound of a mother's voice. Gupse, beloved for her wit and warmth, stepped into the spotlight not with a punchline but with trembling words directed at one man, her ex-husband, Barış. The subject wasn't romance or regret. It was the bond neither ink nor lawyers can dissolve, their child. "We must be together for our baby," she said, and the world stopped to listen. Those few words, delivered in a voice fighting back tears, swept across timelines like a gust through an open window. Is this a plea to reunite? A cry for help? Or a demand to rewrite the meaning of family when love between adults has changed shape? Tonight on Whispers of Turkish Stars, we're stepping into that fragile space between pride and protection. We're looking beyond the tearful clip to the psychology of a woman carrying an impossible weight, the quiet calculations of a father at a crossroads, and the future of a child standing at the center of a constellation far brighter than it feels. Before we wade into this, I want to ask you, the heartbeat of this community, do you think two people who have fallen out of love should stay under one roof for a child's sake, or is a peaceful separation better than a war fought in silence? If you believe in deep dives like this, hit subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars. And if you want to stand in the circle with us, supporting the research and the stories we piece together day by day, the join button is right there. Your support is the ink that lets us write. To grasp why yesterday landed like thunder, you need to understand the hush that came before it. For months, many would say years, Gupse has represented composure. After the split from Barış stunned fans, she wore dignity like armor. The headlines kept marching, the cameras never fully left, the world kept asking questions only she had to face. Yet she met that scrutiny with a poised smile and an unshakable front. But silence doesn't always equal peace. Sometimes it's the last plank bracing a dam brimming with currents no one can see. Yesterday, that support gave way. What we witnessed wasn't a PR stunt or a calculated leak. It was a woman who had reached the edge of what her heart could hold. Behind closed doors, whispers from her inner circle paint a portrait of nights that feel too long, of quiet rooms that roar in the head, of shoulders that have been strong for too long. They describe the exhaustion of single motherhood compounded by public expectation, the ache of giving everything and still fearing it won't be enough. In public, she carried the mantle of the unbreakable woman. In private, even strong hands shake when the conversation turns to the future of a child who did not ask for any of this. So when she stood before those lenses, those same lenses that have treasured her victories, she didn't bring anger. There were no accusations flung like stones, no digs at old wounds. Instead, there was a plea that did not chase a lost romance but tried to rescue a small universe. We may be separated. We may be hurt. But our baby doesn't need this. She wants to see her mother and father together. These aren't words meant to reel back a partner, they're the words you speak when you're trying to build a safe harbor for a little soul who deserves certainty more than anyone. With that framing, the story transformed from tabloid fodder into a moral compass. The fear she gave voice to is recognizable, the worry that the fractures between adults might splinter the world a child calls home. In a landscape that loves to split everything into sides, her phrasing created a different path. Together can mean many things. Sometimes it doesn't mean romance reborn. Sometimes it means a united front, a consistent rhythm, a promise that no matter what changed between two people, one thing remains steady: the child never has to carry the weight of adult mistakes. The message many industry insiders heard was not a sentimental rewind but a blueprint for a healthier environment. A living truce. A commitment to show up in tandem even when love itself has changed its form. People close to her echoed this interpretation. The goal is not a fairy tale ending but a family structure that doesn't leave a child stranded between two islands.
Now, place yourself in Barış's position for a moment.
A plea delivered so publicly can feel like pressure or like a bell tolling a wake-up call you can't ignore.
How would you hear it? Would it sting, or would it steady you? Tell us in the comments. We read each one because your lived experiences give this community depth.
And if you feel the spark of compassion in this story, tap the like button. It helps lift these conversations into more timelines, to people who might need a reminder that hope can survive even in complicated rooms. If you want to keep this studio lit and these stories coming, joining Whispers of Turkish Stars makes you part of the backbone that keeps us going.
And what about the man whose name sits at the center of every thread? For now, Barış has chosen silence.
But don't let the quiet fool you into thinking nothing is happening. Those close to him describe the hush as a storm contained. Friends, and yes, a few carefully slipped notes from his camp, say he could not remain unmoved watching the mother of his child struggle on camera. The past left its marks on both of them. Time doesn't make those disappear overnight. Yet when the conversation becomes the future of your own flesh and blood, the calculus changes. They say he's been turning over the stones of memory and blame, listing the reasons things unraveled against the new reality laid bare by Gupse's words.
The question isn't just what went wrong. It's what must go right now. Timeline matters.
As the echo of her plea ripples outward, new context starts to take shape. Insiders insist she wrestled with the choice for a long time.
She knows the press machine inside out. She knew that reopening difficult chapters would carry a cost she'd have to pay in sleepless nights and relentless scrutiny. She knew judgment would arrive dressed as advice.
But as one confidant put it, it weighed heavier on her heart to say nothing while questions about her baby's future multiplied. So she chose the pain she could live with, the pain of telling the truth as she knows it. In recent weeks, she has drawn closer than ever to their little one, and in that closeness, the shape of absence became impossible to ignore. There are moments, she reportedly told a friend, when even the strongest need a second pair of hands, a shoulder that understands the same heartbeat. Predictably, social media turned into a colossal town square. The clip spread within minutes, and comment sections filled with stories from people who have been there. Who've tried to wipe tears during custody handoffs, who've swallowed pride to keep dinner calm, who've learned to co-parent with grace in the aftermath of love. Many rallied behind Gupse, applauding her transparency and courage.
They didn't see a spectacle.
They saw a mother's resolve. They urged Barış to answer, not with statements but with presence. And unlike the usual fan wars that explode around celebrity sagas, this time empathy seemed to lead. Her vulnerability disarmed the gladiator arena we've all come to expect. So what lies beyond the crest of this wave?
The industry is holding its breath.
Reliable whispers suggest a face-to-face meeting is close, quietly arranged, deliberately invisible.
No flashy restaurant, no cameras lurking behind potted plants.
A private home, or maybe a neutral space where the walls won't listen. And the agenda, we're told, is not a trip through the wreckage of yesterday.
It is one page, single-spaced.
How to give their child a steady, predictable future.
Do they formalize a co-parenting rhythm that never forces their baby to choose? Do they attempt a reconciliation in any form? Or do they create a new kind of together, one deeply respectful, profoundly cooperative, and unromantic, but strong enough to carry a child through growing up without confusion? Here's the part we rarely acknowledge in this business.
Gossip is often painted in glitter and shade, but sometimes it becomes a mirror.
This moment is a mirror. It shows us that the distance between glamour and grief is one thin curtain. You can win awards and still go home to silence that aches. You can trend and still feel the hollow echo of a missing voice at bedtime. Money doesn't buy a father's presence. Fame doesn't guarantee a mother's peace.
What matters, when the camera blinks off, is love redirected into structure, consistency, and care.
That is the true work of family, and it's the work they are now being asked to do, with all of us watching from too close for comfort. So we arrive at the question circling every feed. Will this be the first step of something new or just a cry lost to the wind? Will a door open and remain open enough for two adults to walk through side by side for the sake of a child who deserves every sunrise to feel the same? We'll be here, watching with hope, not cynicism.
Hope for Gupse, for Barış, and above all for the small heartbeat that ties them forever. Thank you for sharing this emotional road with us on Whispers of Turkish Stars. If you believe in what Gupse is trying to do, tell us in the comments how you've navigated similar storms. And don't forget, the join button is there if you want to help us bring more stories that reach beyond the red carpet into the rooms where real life lives. Until we meet again, keep those you love close and your heart open to the possibility that grace can grow in the most unexpected places. And one more thought before we close our notebook for tonight. In a culture that claps for comebacks and memes, it's easy to miss the courage it takes to be the first to speak when trembling feels safer than talking. It's easy to confuse silence with strength, and yet sometimes strength is the voice that breaks the hush.
Perhaps that's what we witnessed. Not a strategy. Not a stunt.
A mother moving the mountain of her pride to build a bridge strong enough for a child to cross.
If that's not the heart of what matters, then what is? We wait for the next page.
We hope it is kinder, calmer, gentler. We hope it is written by two hands, steady at last, turning the same story in the same direction, toward a future where a little one grows up never doubting that both parents are there, together in purpose, even if love looks different than it did before. This is Whispers of Turkish Stars, and tonight we listen not for applause, but for truth.
We heard it. We won't forget it.